it's an honor for us to be celebrating the pioneering philanthropist, Florence Seeley Riford. Although Mrs. Riford is no longer with us, we do honor the generous gift she made more than 30 years ago to establish the Riford Chair in AIDS research. And if I may say so, her gift was not only the one of the first of its kind, focused entirely on advancing AIDS research, but it was also the gift that helped us establish UC San Diego as a global leader in the field of AIDS research. And this occasion today also presents a special opportunity to celebrate Dr. Davey Smith, who's the honoree, who's the recipient of this chair, and therefore the honoree. Dr. Smith, a great colleague of ours, has been an amazing faculty member for this institution, and he's globally recognized for his work in AIDS research. And if I may say so, more so now for his work in COVID-19. He was a key player in our return to learn strategy, which actually gained UC San Diego a lot of visibility in the context of managing the COVID crisis on this campus. So Dr. Smith, I just want to say a personal thank you for your presence here and for our ability to be able to honor you. Your presence on our campus has really, how should I say this, has made us really proud of who we are and what we do. And having you as a colleague has been really important for us. Joining us today is another great colleague of ours who was the first recipient of this chair, Dr. Doug Richman. And he's, like I said, he's a former Riford Chair in AIDS research and an extraordinary emeritus faculty member. Chairs, like I said, these chairs are important for three people: the university, the recipient, and the donor. For the university, were it not for a chair like this, we would not be able to recruit and retain Dr. Richman. And if I may say so, now Dr. Davey Smith. So these chairs behave like they act as the anchor that basically allow us to honor the accomplishments of a faculty member and at the same time give the faculty member some discretionary resources to be able to pursue research that is risky, that typically NIH or NSF would not fund. And these chairs are given to the best of the best. So let me just now say congratulations one more time to Dr. Davey Smith. Thank you, sir. Again, I cannot congratulate you enough. I'm telling you, this is like your birthday, okay? So just enjoy these congratulations, because later on you'll tell me you guys don't love me as much, but I can tell you we love you a lot. Let me just hand this over to Iris and Matt Strauss, close friends, great supporters, great philanthropists of this great campus, and let them say a few words. Iris and Matt, thank you for being here today, and on to you.
Hello, we're very happy to be here this evening, and we want to thank all of you for being here. To introduce ourselves, we're Iris and Matthew Strauss, and we're the co-chairs for development for the UC San Diego Health. And it's a great privilege to recognize the generosity tonight of Florence Riford and to celebrate Dr. Davey Smith, who's the new chairholder of the Florence Seeley Riford Chair in AIDS research. It's quite amazing. This evening is particularly important to us because we have been so strongly involved and feel so strongly about the importance of endowed chairs. We are committed to fundraising for endowed chairs, and in doing so, we realize they play such a critical role in recruiting and retaining the talented faculty and researchers that are here at the University of California. It's very near and dear to us. And so now I think my husband has a few things to say.
Well, Iris, you touched upon the importance of endowed chairs. As development directors, we have to decide where we're going to develop, because it's endless, to putting your names on the buildings, to doing clinical trials, etc. Well, we decided to specialize on doctors' chairs. And the reason for that, endowed chairs, is here we have these beautiful billion-dollar buildings. But think of how important it is to fill them with great doctors, scientists from all over the country. That's what we do so good. Think of another aspect of this. This is something that the money that the university can't provide. So you're doing something creatively here 100% that nobody else can do. And that's why these doctor chairs are such a yin-yang. They're a win-win because you give the doctor, scientist the means to run his department for the bottom line, which is the best care possible. And you also get the great satisfaction of knowing that nobody else can do this.
This past year, Matt was ill and he needed a very, very serious surgery. And it was in the head and neck surgery department, which we had not been familiar with, of course, prior. And it went very well, thank God. As you can see, he's doing so well. But that just increased our resolve that there's nothing more important than endowing the chairs for these doctors to give them the opportunities that they need in addition to what they're doing. So I just thought I would explain that. And I think that.
So bottom line is that we endowed the chair for head and neck surgery at the Moores Cancer Center.
We're just very proud of the department. We're very proud of UC San Diego. And we feel very committed to helping wherever as much as we can.
Good leadership is to do yourself what you're asking other people to do.
Hello there, I'm Dave Brenner. I'd like to add my congratulations to Dr. Davey Smith for being the next Riford Chair in AIDS research. As you're going to hear from our colleague Doug Richman more about Dr. Smith's research, but it's remarkable for that, as Pradeep mentioned, he started AIDS research and then adapted it to COVID-19 research. His research spans from very basic ideas about viral infections all the ways to clinical research with vaccines and immune responses. So I can't think of someone more deserving than Davey Smith to receive the next Riford Chair. In many ways, an endowed chair is the greatest honor that a university can give to its most prestigious faculty. It's beyond promotions, it's beyond other academic achievements, and it represents that we feel that this person is the best to the best. And not only do we feel it, but the donor community also feels it. So it's this great collaboration between the university, the faculty, and the donor community to create endowed chairs. And I hope that Dr. Smith understands and welcomes this incredible tribute we're paying him today. It's also something amazing for the faculty member. It as Pradeep says, it gives you protected time. There's an endowment that goes the payout that goes with it, but it's more valuable than the money. It's a sign of accomplishment that beyond the normal academic promotions. And when Mrs. Riford ended up founding 4 chairs in medicine, they're still here. And that's one of the other amazing things. Programs come and go, even buildings come and go, but the endowed chairs are forever. And it recognizes greatness in the academic community for the length of the university. And in many ways, it's what makes American universities great. So Mrs. Riford is no longer here to share in this amazing celebration, but fortunately for us, Marlene Shaver actually knows her and worked with her. So we're going to ask Marlene to say a little bit about Mrs. Riford.
Good evening, and thank you for having me today. My name is Marlene Shaver, and I'm the Chief Financial Officer of the UC San Diego Foundation. I've been with the university for 30 years, and I had the pleasure of meeting and getting to know Mrs. Riford just a little bit. I thought I would just tell you about her today. I found Mrs. Riford to be an extraordinary, decisive, and very savvy businesswoman who was really quite ahead of her time, and she's the reason we're here today. Born in 1893, she was not only a donor to UC San Diego, but she was a donor to many San Diego institutions. The Florence Riford Senior Center and the La Jolla Riford Library still bear her name today. long ago, one of our leading development officers met her originally while shopping in a secondhand La Jolla clothing shop. They struck up a conversation and it turned into really a marvelous relationship. I'm told that when Mrs. Riford's husband passed away in the early 1960s, she didn't even know how to write a check. She quickly learned, though, how to manage and to increase the fortune that her husband had begun in the stock market. And over time, she gave UC San Diego over $6 million and became quite passionate about many of our causes, including, of course, our health sciences causes. In 1983, Mrs. Riford established the Florence Seeley Riford Chair in Alzheimer's disease research, which is currently held by Dr. Mobley. The original chair put us on the map in terms of Alzheimer's research and helped us to recruit at the time Dr. Katzman and then Dr. Thal, who became quite prolific in generating grant funding for our work here. In 1986, Mrs. Riford established the endowed chair we're celebrating today in AIDS. She was 93 years old at the time, and we believe that it was the first endowed chair in AIDS research in the nation. It's amazing to think about a woman who was in her early 90s, in the very early years of the AIDS epidemic and the suffering that was going on then, who had the foresight and generosity to make this charitable gift at that time. And she wrote in 1986, "I'm very pleased to be able to make this contribution for the necessary research to end AIDS might be understood and hopefully eliminated." I think she came pretty close to achieving her goal. But little did she know that that would also play a part in combating other viruses in the future, like COVID, and the kind of research that has been done by the Riford chairs over the years, and certainly, of course, in the future. I also want to mention the importance of her charitable giving to the university. The $6 million, of the $6 million she gave us, $4 million was for endowment. That endowment today is worth over $16 million. More importantly, the endowed funds have generated almost $12 million over the years in usable endowed payout. So the legacy that she created of endowment, the legacy our donors create of endowment lives on well beyond our lifetimes and contributes to our research enormously. Last but not least, I'm so pleased to be able to talk about Mrs. Riford, and I'm so pleased to congratulate Dr. Davey Smith on being the holder of this chair, and best of luck in your future endeavors, Dr. Smith. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's now my pleasure to introduce Dr. Doug Richman, who's my friend and colleague. He is a distinguished professor of pathology and medicine. He held the Florence Seeley Riford Chair in AIDS research until he became professor emeritus. He continues to have a research laboratory, to serve as director of the UC San Diego HIV Institute, and to be co-director of the San Diego Center for AIDS Research. Dr. Richman, thank you.
Thank you, David. So as David has told you about me, I started here at UC San Diego in 1976. And about 40 years ago, when we started seeing all these individuals coming into our clinics with this new disease, it was clear that was the virus I needed to work on. During that period in the 1980s, in my laboratory and in clinical trials, we helped to develop the new antiretroviral drugs, identified HIV drug resistance, which was critical to the development of the combination antiretroviral therapy and informed patient management. And the laboratory did additional work on neutralizing antibody responses and characterizing the latent reservoir, which is the obstacle to cure. And one of the most rewarding aspects of my time on the faculty and as a Riford Chair was the pleasure of recruiting many creative and productive faculty to help grow and establish the San Diego Center for AIDS Research and the UCSD HIV Institute. What the Riford Chair did for me was really provide invaluable opportunity and flexibility to pursue efforts that weren't constrained by the available funds and other obligations. And it really, the chair is a really important component of supporting faculty, and the Riford Chair with HIV/AIDS was really invaluable. It wouldn't, without that support, it wouldn't have been able to move AIDS from a death sentence to a chronic manageable disease. So Davey came to UCSD as a resident, an intern and resident. And I first really met him when I was an attending physician, and he was a clinical fellow in infectious disease. He was already a really excellent, thoughtful physician. And for his second year in the fellowship, he elected to do a research fellowship with me and my excellent colleague, Joe Wong. And I thought that the stint that we started him on in the lab would be a helpful exposure to that aspect of translational research before he moved on to do clinical research, because he really had never had much experience in the lab. But after just about 4 or 6 months in the lab, it seemed like he was a duck who had taken the water. And his time in the lab, he stayed in the lab and has done an incredible job of growth and development. I did have one concern with Davey as a fellow because he had an inclination to take on multiple projects. And I thought he should focus on just a few projects. What I didn't appreciate was that he was the most accomplished multitasker that I've ever encountered in academic medicine. So that even today, he manages to maintain more balls in the air than any juggler I have ever heard of. And he manages all these tasks, research, clinical care, administration, with remarkable expertise. The HIV program, the Aids Hiv Institute, which was really the brainchild of the late, great Helen Ranney. And with the development of the San Diego CFAR in 1993, we have really established a network of investigators, departments on the campus, and institutions in San Diego, which represent one of the most accomplished and productive HIV/AIDS programs in the world. And as Davey has taken this over, he's already stepped up to further improve this program. And it's really exciting to see what is happening and to still be able to participate it as a cheerleader and a participant. So I can't express how much I'm proud of you, Davey, as a researcher, clinician, and administrator. And before I turn it over, I should mention what Davey does in his spare time. He's a professor of medicine. He's chief of the Division of Infectious Disease and Global Health, which I think has now exceeded 100 people. He's co-director of the Center for AIDS Research. He's a vice chair of research in the Department of Medicine. And he's the protocol co-chair of Active 2, which is the multi-center cooperative study program, clinical trials program of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Disease. And it really is leading the clinical research for COVID treatments in the United States. So I convey my congratulations and very best wishes to Davey as the new Florence Seeley Riford Chair in AIDS Research.
Thanks, Doug. I think this is my medal. So
Right. So it's important that you wear that at all times.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks, Eva. Thanks, Doug. Thanks, Chancellor Kosla. Thanks, Vice Chancellor Brenner. Thanks, Iris, Matt, Marlene. Thanks, Asher and Mom and Dad and Dustin and Sarah. And thanks, everybody, for being here. I really do appreciate it. While you all know me, you may not know how I got here. So I wanted to spend a little bit of time to talk about that. The first time I heard about AIDS, I was an 11-year-old kid watching the CBS evening news with my granddad. And when I was first heard about COVID, I was on a cruise with my parents last year off the coast of Australia, and Asher and I were there. And both of those were pretty darn scary times. On the boat, I was like, I think we need to get back home. But I grew up in a rural community in East Tennessee called Middle Valley. I went to college at the local university, University of Tennessee, Chattanooga. I went to medical school in the northeast corner, up in the mountains of East Tennessee State. It was the early 90s, and there were just lots of gay men who were coming home to die of AIDS, and it was still a pretty scary time. When I told my professor, who was an infectious disease doc at the time, that I wanted to go to San Diego, California to do my residency, he said that I would only see AIDS patients there, so I shouldn't go. I needed to learn other types of medicine. But what he didn't know is that I wanted to learn HIV medicine, and I was also following a boy who was in the Navy. But this was at the time of don't ask, don't tell, so I didn't tell anything. But I was fortunate to match at UCSD, and then I did my internship, residency, chief residency, fellowship at UC San Diego. And when I applied for fellowship at UCSD, I met with Doug in his office, and he asked me, why would you want to be an infectious disease fellow? And I said that I wanted to go to work every day to try to cure HIV, and he chuckled and he said that I would have my job cut out for me because it wasn't going to be easy. But he became my mentor along with Joe Wong and others. I think it takes a village to raise a fellow. So most people on this call had their hands on mentoring me along the way. Alan, Susan, Connie, Chip, Richard. But I got through and rose through the rank and came on faculty, and now I'm chief of the big division of infectious diseases and global public health. We have, I think, over 120 faculty now. We're the biggest NIH-funded division within the Department of Medicine and within the School of Medicine, which I'm very proud to say is quite nice. But it wasn't just my mentors who influenced my career. I had lots of patients who taught me compassion for suffering, but also a passion for science. In fact, I learned early on that the only way to get out of a pandemic alive was through science. It was 1996 when I was an intern, and I saw the science bring in new HIV medicines that allowed HIV patients to get off their deathbeds and go home. It was amazing. And many of the people on this call did that. They're the ones that did the hard job of getting science to get those patients alive and back home. And that was an amazing miracle that I'll never forget in my life. But I was mentored by my patients in science as well. And my current big HIV program is called the Last Gift Program, which I work with Sarah and Antoine and Matt, many people on this call, which is aimed at curing HIV, who was inspired by a longtime patient. This patient was an ardent supporter of research. He volunteered for everything he could. And when he was dying of cancer, he told me, he's like, he was very upset that he could no longer volunteer for HIV research. And that gave me the idea that the Last Gift study, where dying people with HIV would allow us to follow them closely before they die, and then they would donate their bodies to us immediately after death. And then we would perform a rapid autopsy to collect cells and tissue so they're still fresh, so we could study them. And this would allow us to see exactly how HIV hid throughout the body. And I really believe that this study is going to help us figure out how to cure HIV one day. And it's still going on. But now we're fighting another war, COVID-19. And as a virologist and physician scientist, it feels like I've been training to fight this war my whole career. I didn't even know it. When the new virus hit last year, I jumped in with both feet, like stomping in a mud puddle when I was little. It was dirty and messy, and I didn't know how deep it was, but it had to be done because it was a mud puddle. And my lab started building and testing diagnostics. We started collecting blood. Stephen was a big supporter of this from study volunteers. And I learned from my HIV experience and the Beatles that I would need some help from my friends. So we quickly partnered to help make a monoclonal antibody therapy with partners at Scripps. We partnered with La Jolla Institute to understand the immune issues with the new virus. And the science was great, but the problem was the NIH was not going to help me in the puddle that I was in. That is where the John and Mary II Foundations stepped in. Their generous support saved the lab, all of our work around COVID-19. And for that, I will always be grateful. And from our early work, I was tapped to tackle COVID-19 on a national and then global scale. I was asked to be the lead investigator for Active-2, as Doug mentioned, which is the US government's flagship clinical trial to help find new therapies to keep people out of the hospital, so to treat early COVID. And it was part of this Operation Warp Speed that's undergoing a name change at the moment, but the trial is still going. And it was instrumental in getting the first sets of monoclonal antibodies out for use for people with early COVID. And now we have 4 other drugs that are currently being tested in the trial now that are much easier to give than monoclonals, and we'll see how they work, but that's what science does. We have 100 sites over the US and more than 30 sites coming across the world, which is keeping me busy. Asher doesn't get to see me much, even though we're oftentimes in the same house having meetings. What I understand very clearly now is that we were not anywhere close to being prepared for HIV or COVID or any of the viral epidemics that occurred between them. It's the first SARS, Ebola, avian flu, Zika, and we have to do better. It has also become clear throughout this whole process that politics should not get involved in our response to viral pandemics. Our responses to both HIV and COVID suffered because of the politics, but it isn't easy, probably impossible to take out the politics of the US government. This is how academic institutions can help. So here's the news of the day. I just want to let everybody know that UCSD is currently setting up a Pandemic Preparedness Institute. And it's going to tackle both HIV and COVID, because those are pandemics that are still here, and the next one. So we're very much interested in being prepared for the next one. And our job will be to stop it even before it happens. And it can be done. We knew that the virus that eventually becomes SARS-CoV-2 and caused the disease of COVID-19 was present in bats in China for years. We knew it years ago. We know now that there are others like it still there in other bats all across the world. And we have the tools to make the tests and the treatments and the vaccines and everything else that could stop it in the tracks now. We could make all those treatments and vaccines, put them on a shelf. If the virus jumps from a bat or some other animal into humans, we could deploy those tests and treatments and vaccines and stop it in the track. So you might be able to tell I was once a Boy Scout, and our motto was to be prepared. But we need more Boy Scouts. We need more preparation for the next viral pandemic. And I know that my training and research in HIV prepared me to meet the challenge of this exact moment in time. And I've been able to build upon the battles fought against HIV to help position UC San Diego as a global leader in that response to COVID-19 and future pandemics. So in closing, I'm humbled by this honor and by Mrs. Riford's groundbreaking investment in HIV research. As you can see from Doug's career and hopefully mine, it is only with forward-thinking philanthropic investments and partnerships that this work can be accomplished. I feel incredibly privileged to benefit from this endowed chair. It will continue to contribute to making something that once seemed impossible, possible, that maybe the hope to eliminate HIV and AIDS from the world and fulfill the wish of Florence Riford and so many others. So I'll end here, and thank you all for your support and listening to my past, present, and future journeys. I'm fortunate to be able to come to work every day, even if it's remotely, and try to cure viral pandemics. It's the toughest, best job in the world, and I'm glad Doug let me come into his lab. Thanks.
Congratulations. Thank you so much. So there are 2 Riford chairs here. Davey's the second. And if you look at their productivity and their accomplishments, it's really remarkable. It expands from the early research in HIV, AIDS, to latency, to drug discovery, then continuing on from Doug Richman to Davey's work, and now to also studying the next pandemic, COVID-19. So it's a really good investment in Mrs. Riford, and we're really fortunate to have such amazing holders of this endowed chair. So congratulations to both of you. And now what I think is the most fun part of this event is we get to open up the mic and have other people tell embarrassing things about Davey Smith. So I'm really looking forward to this. Maybe I can start. There are a couple of people who already volunteered, which is nice. And then if you have not volunteered but want to, just either electronically raise your hand, or if you can't figure that out, just wave and I'll find you. Okay. So I'd like to start, if she's on, with Connie Benson, who's a long-term colleague of Davey.
Yes, I am on. Thank you, David. And congratulations to Davey. It's a well-deserved honor, and we couldn't have selected a better person to take on this wonderful challenge of continuing the success with the Riford Chair. So I was trying to think if I had embarrassing stories to tell about Davey. I probably have lots of them, but he probably doesn't want to have them heard by the rest of this group. So I'll try to keep it simple. One of the things you probably don't know yet about Davey, despite his commentary about trying to keep politics out of science, Davey's actually been one of our greatest community activists in trying to encourage politics to contribute to science. And I think that's one thing that often goes unrecognized. Davey has been very active in the San Diego community in supporting causes and supporting politicians who help us support the work that we do. Todd Gloria is a particularly good example of that. I think Davey's been instrumental in working on a variety of different campaigns over the years, but having a new mayor who is so supportive of scientific research being done at UC San Diego, to the point that he comes to some of our presentations, that he comes to our clinics and visits our sites, is a tremendous advantage for us. Susan Davis previously was another politician that Davey and Doug both were particularly instrumental in having their support for the work that we do, especially in HIV-related research at UCSD. The other thing that I'm very grateful to Davey for is he served as a board of directors member for Christie's Place, which is a wonderful community organization here in San Diego that supports women and families with or affected by HIV. Davey's term on the board of directors ended, and he recruited me to join, and I've served on the board of directors for Christie's Place for a number of years now. I've decided it's time for me to turn that over to a younger, more energetic person who has maybe less on their plate. Although I think neither Davey and I, nor I, have ever decided how to get rid of something on our plate. We've always just put more on there. And it's a wonder we don't weigh 400 pounds each with all the things we put on our plate every day. But I just wanted to use those as two examples of Davey's contributions that go well beyond the science of the work that's been done in his laboratory and with his collaborative work around the globe, is the community service work and his contributions to the community, and his both his political and community activism have supported a lot of work around San Diego County. So I think that's something that should be acknowledged as well. So I don't want to take up other people's time, but I really want to congratulate Davey and Asher, because I think Asher deserves some of the credit for this award too, because I think he does a lot to support the work that Davey does. But congratulations to Davey on a wonderful honor, and couldn't happen to a better person. So thank you.
Thanks, Connie.
Thank you, Connie. I have a couple of write-ins, so I'm just going to read them out in between people speaking. So one is from James Jackson. And he says, congratulations, Dr. Davey Smith, in your appointment as Riford Chair in AIDS Research. Thanks for all you do in improving the welfare of our communities, especially for those that are often overlooked and underserved. It's very nice. And I was told that Dr. Alan McCutcheon would definitely say something that will embarrass you. So here you go.
So I thought it would be fun to illustrate Davey's amazing breadth of talents and interests by just going over 3 things that I happen to know about and haven't been mentioned and are a bit outside the remarkable accomplishments that Doug and Connie and others have outlined for you in Davey's past. I was walking past Davey's office in the AVRC building in Hillcrest one afternoon and noticed a trophy on a shelf in the office, and Davey wasn't there, so I tiptoed in and took a look at this trophy, and it was a chess championship trophy, and I was just amazed, but Davey happened to come back in the next few minutes, so I asked him about it, and he told me this wonderful story about how he and 3 of his friends and classmates, I guess, in high school had virtually taught themselves chess. They may have gotten a little help, but it wasn't clear that there had been any tradition of chess in this high school before. And that they began to become quite good at it and ended up in a national championship. So I thought I'd ask Davey to tell us a little bit more in detail about how all that occurred and what they accomplished.
Thanks, Alan. Yeah, so we didn't know how to play chess, so we taught ourselves. My mother was a teacher in the middle school, so she got to be our coach, and she does not know how to play chess, but that gave us a supervisor to be able to go to chess tournaments. She could drive the van. And then we made it twice to the national championships. And one of my first games, it was from this guy I sat down playing for Tennessee, and he was playing for New Jersey, and he comes into the first thing and he sits down, and he's just talking. And then I say something like, hello, but I had a very deep Southern accent, and he like stops and he looks under the table. He looks at the thing and says, Tennessee, and you're wearing shoes. And then I beat him in 22 moves. So
That's wonderful.
there's my story.
So how did you finish in those 2 years in these national championships?
We finished 3rd in one, and in one the senior year we placed 3rd in the nation for
That's
Tennessee.
really remarkable.
Yeah.
I am so impressed. Well, the next thing I wanted to mention is that I've never actually witnessed this, but my understanding is that during his residency and fellowship, Davey was a clothes model and was a professional who would go to photo shoots and so on. You want to tell us a little about that?
No.
May I comment on that briefly?
I want to comment too. I want to comment too from Will Go.
This is Matt Strain. Alan, there is a comment I would like to make on that, because I recall when Davey had been working part-time on the side, as one does as an infectious disease fellow, as a runway model. And at the time that he was at a juncture of deciding what to do with the rest of his life, he was offered a runway modeling contract in, if I remember correctly, Milan. Now, I was not privy to financial details of this, but I think it's safe to say that the modeling gig he was being offered was both considerably more lucrative and less demanding than an infectious disease fellowship. And yet Davey, without hesitation, decided to stay and continue on his path to becoming an academic faculty member. He was playing the long game. I think he knew then that there's no endowed fellowship for old models. But it is a nice reminder, I think, that he's not just a pretty brain.
Well, Matt, Susan, I'm just going to say he did have a moment's hesitation, because I do remember a long walk where he sat and talked to me about am I making the right decision? Is this really the right choice to make? Because there was a financial discrepancy between the two choices.
Well, thank you both. That really clarifies how important this was in a sense. Now, the third thing that I wanted to let
Dr. McCutcheon, it's Will Go. May I also said we had to cover Davey because he would be post call or cover calls. When we had to go to Milan or other exotic places, we would have to cover his call. So he'd switch call with us and then pay us under the side for us poor residents when he was doing runway modeling.
Now it is revealed. Okay. All right. Well, now the third thing is a little more serious. Davey is a published poet. And I actually don't know how widely published because the only two poems I know about have been published in a poetry journal that I read regularly, the Annals of Internal Medicine. And so back in 2003 and 2005, he contributed to their ad libitum sections. And I thought both of these poems were really lovely. And I thought I would read the second one from 2005 and give you a little information about it at the end. And then, Davey, if you want to say anything more about it, fine. If not, that'll be the end of my part in this. So it begins, he stumbles over my name like it is one of my childhood toys lying in wait in a darkened hallway. But my name is his name, as is the custom in our family for eldest sons. It is all he remembers now. No Christmas mornings, no teaching me how to swim. And he stutters over the hard syllables like he is slowly entering cold water himself. Dull gray lips tremble while I sit next to his bed, remembering Christmas, waiting for him to slip over his head into the Lethe River and swim to the other side. So for those of you who didn't major in Greek mythology, the Lethe River is one of the 5 rivers of the underworld or Hades. And the word itself in Greek means oblivion, forgetfulness, that sort of thing. And so Davey, do you have anything you'd like to say about this poem and who it's about?
It was just about a patient that I had. But it was just a touching moment. But thank you for reading that, Alan.
It was beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. Will Go has already started to speak, but I think we give a little more time. So Will was his colleague in fellowships and an alumnus of UC San Diego School of Medicine. Will.
Thank you, Dr. Brenner, and thank you for letting me speak and embarrass Davey. So I'm usually brought in as comic relief. So I'm an alum of UC San Diego. I did my MD PhD there with also with Dr. Strain there, who was speaking earlier with nice hat, Matt. And Davey, it's been a true friend, especially during the pandemic. First the serious stuff and then the funny stuff. But the serious stuff is that, number one, he doesn't just help everyone on this call. He's a true physician scientist. And what I really admire about Davey, he always has time for everyone. As many have said, he's helped my kids' school get open here in Los Angeles. He helps all these other children out and really is an inspiration to everyone. And as we've always said, public health should not mix with politics. But I said to Davey, he needs to get in front of more of the politics, because without the politics and physician scientists like Davey to get out there, we'll never get out of the pandemic. And he's been very innovative, and I applaud Davey. And one thing I said that I promised Davey, because you can blame Davey for me leaving academia. So I had that long walk also. I thought so just to be clear, I'm a physician scientist, but I'm from the Moores Cancer Center. So I have very fond memories of the Moores Cancer Center under Tom Kipps's lab. So hi, Dr. Richman, nice to see you again. And what I can tell is that Dave and I had a long walk, and instead of him, I told him not to go stay in physics science, don't become a runway model. And he told me to leave academia. And I worked with Matt and Davey on my first biotech adventure called Simunity, which we tried to use hollow fiber tubes to then try to grow T cells. I grow T cells to cure cancer. He grows T cells for other reasons. So I left to go to Amgen and Kite. I do CAR T work. But so now that others, thank you, Dr. McCutcheon, for breaking it open. So now that you broke that open, I have one photo that I want to show. Sorry, Dave, I have to do this now that Dr. McCutcheon said this, because someone said to me, what was Dr. Smith as a runway model? Because Matt and I know, Matt, me, Davey, we're all losing hair. We don't look always like we used to do. But what I can tell you is, here we go. So I found this of Davey when there's Davey. Maybe you remember this. This is Fashion Week, I believe, either in New York or France. He's carrying a nice, it's Getty Images. There's the bag he's carrying. So, I just thought that was one. The other thing that people don't know about Davey is that he throws a mean fastball. He was a relief pitcher. So maybe, Davey, I would like you to share a nice story. How fast was your fastest fastball? Division I and a relief pitcher. And then the last thing I want to say before I give my time back to Dr. Brenner is, I'm a big fan of supporting physician scientists. So I already said I've committed, I'll match up the first $1,000 to Davey's research fund. So anyone wants to match, talk to your other donors. And someday I hope to donate a chair at some point if I can afford it. But I'll donate the first $1,000 to Davey and to UC San Diego, because without UC San Diego, I would not be the physician scientist today and all the great things that we can do together. Davey, fastball.
Thanks. I mean, there was a time when I could throw a 90-mile-an-hour curve, but I can't walk down a runway either. But thanks, Will. And I think Tom Patterson has.
Yeah, Tom next. Anyway, Will, thank you so much. That was so much fun. And now I'd like to turn it over to Tom Patterson, please.
Thank you. I'd like to relay a little story. Many of you know that I went through a very severe illness now almost 5 years ago. And the first thing I remember in coming back to San Diego and being cared for by so many people here, Chip and Connie, Davey, and everybody else in infectious disease in every other department, was Davey coming into the ICU where I was in and out of a coma. And he said, "You will go crazy. I know, because I've been there." And he had had this experience himself. But throughout my illness, he was by my bedside. When I was crazy, I called him in the middle of the night, or tried to, as you may remember, because I thought that it was time to pull the plug. But he supported my wife and my family, all of us, through the entire process. And I can't tell you how important that was to my survival. And I'm so appreciative of UC San Diego, all the faculty, and Davey. But also, I guess the other thing, that the man of all seasons that seems to know everything, the one thing you may not know is Davey, like myself, is a bird watcher, and that we share that interest and have gone bird watching together. So that's another facet of Davey that people probably didn't know. And with that, I'll stop. Thanks, Davey.
Thanks, Tom. I do like watching birds. I just was at my parents' place and we saw some gold eagles, and I was thinking about you and taking you. We should go there.
Tom's comment about the bird watching made me realize that you haven't known Davey until you've been on an African safari and there are wild animals all over the place. And he is down on his hands and knees photographing bugs. His interest in insects is much greater, I think, than even birds. Correct me if I'm wrong. But
I like bugs, yeah.
He likes bugs so much. Beetles, oh my God, just everywhere. He sends me pictures of beetles from all the places he's been. Like, this is for you. So anyway, that's certainly the one thing about him. But I'll just add on to what everyone else has said. I think one other thing I would add is I think you are an amazing mentor. I think what others have said about being available for mentees at every single level, including people that you're not mentoring, that you've just made yourself available for at all hours, apparently, of the day and night, to talk to, whether it's coaching me on my way as we drive up to rounds together, or to the VA together in the morning, or grabbing a cup of coffee, or whatever it is. It's a little harder in COVID land, but I think you've just made an amazing impact on so many people just by being sort of a human touch that people can reach out to and, you know, sort of get a sense of where they belong and what they should be doing, and you know, how to pursue their dreams. And I think that's an incredibly valuable part of this program. And I thank you for it.
Thank you, Susan. I have one more request from my friend and colleague, Dr. Igor Grant. And you have to unmute.
Good. Can you hear me now? Great. Thank you, David, and thank you, Chancellor Khosla, also for hosting this wonderful event. I was asked also to say a few semi-closing remarks. I'm sure David will have closing remarks, and there are just a couple of things I wanted to say. One is that, of course, an investiture of an endowed chair like this is a very special event. It's very special for Davey, the candidate. It's very special for the university, very special for our community as well. As far as Davey is concerned, Davey, this is so timely, so appropriate. Your talents and praises, some of which I didn't know about actually, but as a psychiatrist, it gives me some certainly fodder here to consider when next time we meet. This is a very timely, very appropriate honor for you. And you're stepping into the shoes of a giant, Doug Richman, who is actually my personal hero in virology, with apologies to Tony Fauci. I'm confident you'll be up to the task. I just wanted to add about Davey. One thing I found especially wonderful is your ability to think broadly. Maybe Doug talked about it as multitasking, but I see it as that you have a broad peripheral vision in terms of science and research opportunities. And certainly that has helped our group enormously. Our group works on the neurological and neuropsychiatric behavioral aspects of HIV, and you brought your basic virologic talents to this. My only disappointment is that we have not been able to convince you that the brain is the most important organ. You keep focusing on lymphocytes and God knows what, but that's okay. Still, you have made these enormous contributions to us. I wanted to say a couple of things, though, more generally, and that is the importance of these chairs, as both Dr. Brenner and Dr. Khosla have said. The foresight of people like Florence Riford accelerates our ability to make discovery and also to educate our students and create a better world. Besides bringing prestige to our university and to the chair holder, it provides the faculty member with the wherewithal to pursue something new, something risky potentially, or find a really talented mentee to work with. These are very important reasons for these endowed chairs. And I can speak personally because I have been favored with a different chair. It's called the Marston Chair. And again, through the generosity of that family, people in the psychiatry department have been able to pursue important directions. So, and finally, I think the ceremony to me also underscores the importance of these chairs as a connection to our community. Through the, again, generosity, the foresight of the Rifords, Marstons, many other families and enterprises, our community is supporting an essential mission at UCSD. But I also want to say, we often talk about community. The community really includes us as well. For example, us faculty, some of whom have managed to do reasonably well. And I do encourage us also to think about how we can make contributions like this. I know it is through examples I saw here at UC San Diego that Joanne and I decided to endow our chair, a chair also. But as I say, there are many opportunities for us to step up as well. So once again, I want to thank Davey. We're going to keep working on you to stress the importance of the brain. And I congratulate you on your investiture as the next Florence Seeley Riford Endowed Chair in AIDS Research.
Thank you, Igor. My first R01 was on the brain.
Well, it was the most important one, right?
The most important.
I have one more request. I'm going to yield my time, my concluding remarks to Chip Schooley, who really wants to say something. So Chip came in late, so I'm going to ask him to speak. Chip, please.
Oh, apologize for being late. I just want to actually, we've heard so many great things about Davey, some of which we knew and many of which we imagined, and now we know are true. And it's really been fantastic to see all of Davey's friends and supporters around the table learning about all the things that Davey has done. I think one thing, though, that we should not lose sight of is that there are many people who like to talk, but there are very few who like to listen. And Davey is one of the latter. He has been an incredibly good listener to all of us, to me and to all of us in the division, and to anybody who needs help. Davey is there. He's somebody who is an advocate for people who are having tough times and who does the right thing when people need to be supported and helped. And that's the mark of a true leader and a true human being and a great scholar. So it's really a privilege to have Davey leading the division, continuing his research in the tradition of Doug Richman with the support of this chair. And I think that UCSD only benefits by having people like Davey stay with us in our leadership roles, and look forward to many years of following Davey's great successes.
Thank you, Chip. And I'm going to say goodnight and turn it over to Davey. And I want to thank Davey and his friends and colleagues. Davey?
Yeah, thank you, everyone. Thank you for those kind words. And thanks for not embarrassing me too much. But I do really appreciate it. And I'm ready to get started back on the work.
Thank you. Good night, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us.